90.7 KPFK, Los Angeles.
Russia, if you're listening.
Talk show, random, political, outrageous, philosophical, analytical, passionate, sunsets, roadkill cooking tips, open-minded, swordsman, bent, resolute, chocolate, bushwhacker, belt buckles, investigative, companion, fearless. Call in. Piercing the cloud of mainstream entertainment. It's the Cary Harrison Files.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files. Cary Harrison here with you. Support, by the way, for the Cary Harrison Files comes in part from Interscope Records, presenting Who Believes in Angels. That's the new album by Elton John and Brandi Carlile. Further information is available at interscope.com. Also, we're live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us live at kpfk.net. Just go to kpfk.net. Also, please don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get special content that we are forbidden to present on radio, thanks to the FCC, thanks to the defunding of public radio, thanks to the defunding of PBS. So it's private. It's away from prying eyes, if you know what I mean. And that's our newsletter, caryharrison.com, C-A-R-Y, or you can go to kpfk.net. Well, coming up, we're going to open the phone lines. You can feedbacks, you can rants, you can get it all off your chest. You can ask me anything. In other words, feel heard during these extreme times. Also, at the end of this hour, we're going to do something special and continue live streaming after the show technically ends on both Substack and YouTube. We're going to continue. And there we're going to have an exclusive private interview with none other than Star Trek Voyager's Tim Russ. He played Tuvok, the Vulcan. He's a deep thinker, and he has been bravely defending the DEI dream of Gene Roddenberry, keeping it alive. It's going to be exclusively here, live streamed right after the show. You can Google caryharrison.com or Cary Harrison Substack and watch it with us. Well, welcome back, you poor, beautiful data packets tethered to Earth, tracked like tagged caribou in some divine bureaucratic preserve. Today's sermon from the mountaintop of madness comes courtesy of the Department of Government Efficiency. Yes, that's Doge. No relation to the grinning Shiba Inu meme, though both share a flair for the absurd. Doge, you see, has taken upon itself to consolidate every digital breadcrumb you've ever left behind. Tax returns, DMV records, library late fees, Spotify playlists, Tinder swipes, you keep going, everything into one glistening government database. That's a Tower of Babel made entirely of surveillance metadata. Something about eliminating waste, fraud, and abuse, they say. The kind of slogan you'd normally find on a gulag poster or stitched into a TSA agent's neck pillow. And just who's behind this divine data mining crusade? Well, although the White House assures us he isn't officially in charge, all fingers point to Emperor Elon I, or as he renamed himself officially, Lord Kikius Maximus. Lord Kikius Maximus. Yep, that Elon, rocket baron, Martian landlord in waiting, self-declared techno king with all the restraint of a raccoon in a moonshine factory. Apparently, Mr. Kikius Maximus's definition of government efficiency is stripping data protections faster than he stripped away Twitter's moral dignity. Now, Doge operatives who may or may not have actual security clearances, but definitely have startup hoodies and venture capital in their bloodstreams. Now, Doge operatives are elbow deep in a project to stitch together a master file on you. Yes, on you. Never mind the 1974 Privacy Act. That relic of democratic idealism is being treated the way most billionaires treat prenups, as a polite suggestion. There are sure lawsuits, 11 of them, last I checked. But what's a lawsuit when you're racing to build a digital panopticon just before happy hour? If George Orwell had lived to see this, he'd have drowned himself in a puddle of vodka and binomial code. Naturally, White House officials are saying, well, there's nothing to worry about. They've assured us that Doge's systems are protected by, quote, some of the brightest cybersecurity minds in the nation. Which is sort of like saying your parachute was sewn by the finest philosophy majors. It sounds impressive right up until impact. Meanwhile, actual cybersecurity experts, well, screaming into the void, warning that Doge's database is about as secure as a toddler with your phone passcode. And let's be clear, this data isn't just about surveillance, it's about power. It's about, big one, artificial intelligence. Here's the plot of the play. Unlike the internet's usual mess of lies, memes, and catfight compilations, government databases are neat, orderly, verified. They are the holy grail for training AI systems. Why spend years building models when you can hijack Social Security records, unemployment data, and census reports to teach your bot how to think like God and market like Amazon's Jeff Bezos? This never before seen consolidation gives one company, and by extension, one billionaire, an unimaginable edge in the arms race of intelligence, artificial or otherwise. It also makes it easier to manipulate you, to spy on you, to cut your services, and punish you for voting incorrectly. But hey, what's freedom compared to synergy, they tell us. And speaking of synergy, let's talk a little bit about the FAA, that quaint relic of public safety, now fused at the hip with SpaceX like some Brobdingnagian monstrosity. Under the current administration, the FAA has been systematically hollowed out to serve the dreams of one man whose idea of accountability is a tweet and a tantrum. Let's take the story of Mike Whitaker, Biden's FAA chief, who had the audacity to fine SpaceX for blowing up a launch pad and lighting endangered birds on fire. Well, Kikius Maximus didn't just disagree. He demanded that Whitaker resign, citing, quote, paperwork and red tape as the real villains, not say that the rocket had turned a nature reserve into a charcoal briquette. Of course, Whitaker did resign, just happened to be the same day as the almost Pope took office. Coincidence? About as coincidental as Elon's $300 million campaign donation. The next day, Mr. T freezes all federal hiring, fires the TSA chief, and clears out the Aviation Security Advisory Committee. Because nothing screams efficient air travel like understaffed towers and disgruntled agents with nothing left to lose. Then came the crash. A U.S. Army helicopter and an American Airlines jet collided in D.C. airspace. The cause? Well, we may never know, because the administration immediately shut down the independent panel investigating it. But they did install a SpaceX engineer in the FAA's comms network who, get this, started installing Starlink equipment. That's the satellites, all of them rotating the Earth geosynchron, these giant blanket of satellites owned by none other than Kikius Maximus. So they fire the FAA, they install a SpaceX engineer, and he installs Starlink equipment. Mars or bust, baby. Starlink, by the way, now claims that for services provided on Mars, haven't been there yet, all disputes are going to be governed by, quote, self-governing principles. Let's translate that. Lord Kikius makes the laws, and you, dear Mars traveler, you will obey. So if your Martian Airbnb has no oxygen, or your overcharged for freeze-dried Pringles, you can file your complaint directly into the Martian void. How many movies have we seen about this? Seriously. And here it is. Meanwhile, back here on Earth, Starlink satellites are raining debris. They're disrupting flights. They're scattering PTSD like confetti. In Newark, controllers lost contact with multiple planes for 90 seconds, during which 4 veterans of the skies filed medical leave. They left. The government blamed the chaos on, quote, diversity hiring, like the dreaded drag queen well known to occupy FAA towers at your nearest airport. I don't think drag queens are brilliant. I don't think they could have thought that one up and put it into their act, right? FAA towers. Well, the truth, SpaceX was busy retrofitting the FAA into its own orbital ambitions. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy blamed it all on Biden. Poor Sleepy Joe, still somehow running the country through a game console in the retirement home. And Alvin Brown, the black vice chair of the National Transportation Safety Board, was fired the next day. Why? Possibly for overt negritude in the face of DEI erasure. But as they say in banana republics and this modern America alike, if you want loyalty, get a dog. If you want competence, get fired. Now, if you're thinking, surely Congress is stepping in. Oh, would that it were. Talk about a parliament of whores who have abdicated their constitutional responsibility with the passion of a crocodile sniffing a toy poodle sunning on the shore. Mr. T has nominated Jared Isaacman, Kikius Maximus's buddy, a fellow billionaire and part-time astronaut, to run NASA. No conflict of interest whatsoever. Whew, we can all relax. The budget slashed by 25%, with $1 billion then funneled up straight into Martian efforts. You see, Starlink's satellite frequencies, that's the satellites, all of them overhead now, they're all being peddled in international trade deals too. India, like a contestant on a rigged game show, even rushed to approve its entry because apparently sovereignty is for sale and comes with a promo code now. Tim Cook has certainly found a promo code when, remember, patriotically, he, along with everyone else, should have moved his company, his supply chain from China because of the tariffs back to the U.S. The stated reason for the tariffs, to move back to the U.S. He did not. He moved his supply chain to India. Meanwhile, federal research into space pollution, it's been canceled. Because why study orbital junk when you can profit from it? Lord Kikius Maximus even bragged that Ukraine's front line would collapse if he turned his Starlink satellites off. That's not just infrastructure, that's extortion with a satellite dish. So here we are, standing at the altar of progress, watching as the gods of code and combustion eat our democratic institutions like hors d'oeuvres. Kikius and the new techno-priests don't want borders, they don't want laws, they don't want public input, they want network states. Digital fiefdoms, ruled not by the will of the people, but by the whim of the algorithm. They dream of a world where sovereignty is obsolete and you're a user profile instead of a citizen. Remember some years ago how awful it was to be called a consumer? I mean, what a vile thing to call a live human, especially one that pays taxes, one that has an education, one that still reads books on paper, to just call you a consumer. Everyone's a consumer. Consumers do this because I'm not one. Sure, I buy stuff, but I'm not a consumer. But we all became consumers. Now you're a user profile instead of a citizen. And maybe they'll get it. After all, when you hand your data to Doge, your airspace to SpaceX, and your connectivity to Starlink, what's left that isn't already owned, tracked or monetized. So I think we can all sleep well tonight. You brave meat sacks, you. Keep your passport close and your VPN closer, because the future isn't coming, it's already here. And it has a user agreement longer than the US Constitution and half the rights. And sorry, I get so wound up thinking and talking about this. If you're live streaming right now, if you're listening to us, we are going to be bringing on, Star Trek's Tim Russ Tuvok, the Vulcan. He is an outspoken advocate of the right things. It takes a guy who still supports Gene Roddenberry's vision. He's coming up at the very, very end of the show as we continue to live stream on Facebook. Facebook, yes, absolutely. On Twitter, formerly known as X, formerly known as Twitter. And of course, most importantly, on Substack and YouTube. Simply Google Cary Harrison Substack, Cary Harrison YouTube. You can watch right now. Let's finish this little exegesis with looking at the Department of Education, which my ancestor, Abraham Lincoln, on my mother's side, I'm from Illinois originally, he built the Department of Education. It was the founding fathers' original idea, by the way, back in the beginning of this country. They felt that a country of nitwits could in no way manage a democracy. So they didn't call it the Department of Education, but they had the idea that everyone should have a public education. It was after slavery that Lincoln created the Department of Education, because Black people had been forbidden to even read or write, period. So having a Department of Education, Congress created it, by the way, under Abraham Lincoln, was a way to allow former slaves and even toothless rednecks in the South to learn how to read and write, and therefore be able to handle some kind of democracy. Now, the Department of Education is a creaking, paper-clipped edifice of standardized test scores. Try saying that 10 times fast. And federal lunch programs. I mean, we sort of know it for what it has been, and it's finally been dismantled. It's gone. It's been zapped. It's been pulped like an overdue library book in a wind turbine. Why? Well, because, and I quote our current philosopher king, Elon Musk, education is obsolete. Oh, let me quote that again, shall I? Education is obsolete. Now, why would you say that? If you controlled 100% of everything, complete governance, all data, why would you say education is obsolete? Obsolete, like landlines, obsolete like human handwriting, obsolete like the notion that people should think for themselves. Well, it turns out, ready for this? Thinking is inefficient. And inefficiency, as we all know, is the devil's yoga class. See, Lord Maximus's new AI system, appropriately called hypercortex, trademark. I have to say that. After you say hypercortex, there's a little TM. So you have to say trademark, because, somebody's going to get pissed. Hypercortex has made learning redundant. Why train doctors? This is coming from the top now. Why train doctors when the AI already has a 300 millisecond response time? It's got a perfect bedside manner, doesn't it? Modeled on a Disney animatronic. And it doesn't need to sleep. It doesn't need to poop. It doesn't need to sue for malpractice. Why teach history when the algorithm can rewrite it faster than you can say 1984 was a warning, not a manual? This is the age of applied genius, where algorithms do the knowing and you just do the obeying. And if you don't, the penalty is severe. So the great universities of the nation, Harvard, heard that name a lot lately, haven't we? Yale, Walmart Tech, all have closed, have all closed their doors and auctioned off their ivy-covered walls to crypto bros, all looking to turn dormitories into luxury NFT data farms. The tenured professors, and by the way, apologies for people that are keying up comments that are coming in, flooding in on Facebook, on YouTube right now. People are writing in comments and they're coming up digitally on the video portions. I can't quite read them because I'm like so focused on what I'm thinking about. But I can look over, I see them there, I acknowledge them, and I hopefully Renee can bring them up a little later. The beautiful Renee Yawarski, our awesome director, who clerked for the Supreme Court back when it was actually supreme in a good way. So she's quite the genius, and I am very lucky to have her for sure. So what about those tenured professors? Most now drive for Uber, though they prefer to call it mobile epistemology consulting. Just made that up. Don't worry, they're still wearing tweed. It's just that the back seat smells like despair and vape. So you're going to ask, well, who's making the decisions now? Oh, sweet naivete. You still think decisions are made? Hypercortex, trademark. It doesn't decide, it asserts. It renders truth like a divine fax machine from Olympus. Do you need a medical diagnosis? Well, it scans your retina through your phone's front camera while you scroll TikTok and prescribes you a robotic lobotomy with a 99.9% success rate. This technology is happening real time, not as dramatically as that, but I just can't help being adolescent 98.3% of the time. Oh, if you want to study Plato, you're directed to an NFT of a Socrates meme that says, know thyself, followed by an ad for brain supplements. So let's talk about employment, a concept as archaic as rotary phones and congressional ethics. The few factories that actually rise from the ruins of the Rust Belt, like dystopian Legos, well, not a single, this is important, not a single human soul is actually going to be needed. All those voters, all those, whatever, the bottom third of this country that has believed they're going to get rich if they just vote this way, they get to own women, finally, again, as servants, they get to do what they want as men. They can fart, drink beer, break the law, lie, cheat, steal. It's fine. It's cool. It's all just like the people above. It's a man's world. Yeah, dude. Hey, all voted for this, all thinking they're going to get jobs. How long does it take to build a factory, by the way? 4 to 10 years. Then you have to retrofit it if it's already an already existing building. And by then you would put what? Uneducated people who no longer have schooling. You're going to have them build complicated instruments like an iPhone? Oh, I think not. We've already been told robots are going to be doing it all. They're going to be assembling, they're going to be welding, boxing, inspecting, and crying in existential anguish. We're already seeing it at Amazon. It's already there. And the same robots will cry. Well, even the union reps are AI now. Seriously, programmed to always vote yes and never ask questions. It's what they call labor harmony. So things are guided already in 2025. The rest of us, well, we've been reassigned or retasked using the modern nomenclature. If you prefer corporate euthanasia, we're now the nation's berry pickers, a noble profession once outsourced, but now proudly domestic. It was the domain of many of the immigrants, the only ones willing to stand in 118 degree Fahrenheit sun and pick berries. You could have robots pick berries, except berries are not the same shape. Some have leaves over them, some have hanging twigs. You still need human hands. That's what's left. So you've got about, 300 million Americans, 380 million Americans. 10,000 would actually get those gigs? With climate change, by the way, cooking this globe, strawberries now ripen year-round, and someone's got to pluck them. While hypercortex calculates your calorie allotment and pings your wristband with the day's optimal serotonin drip. We're not unemployed. We're biological maintenance technicians, or BMTs. You're going to get a badge, you're going to get a uniform, and a pod to sleep in. The lucky ones even get strawberries. This is science fiction come to life. and it's being constructed. Your government has already been almost fully dismantled. This dystopian dream is real for an entire nation. But don't fret, because all of your material needs are met. They're curated, they're measured, they're dispensed by our AI overlords with algorithmic grace. Education? Who needs it? Curiosity? That's a liability. Imagination? That's the thing that made you question your strawberry picking quota. It's dangerous stuff. And what of democracy, you ask? Ha! The only votes that count now are server side. We don't elect leaders, we subscribe to them. President is now a cloud-based position, streamed monthly, available in 4K, with bonus content for premium users. Free version comes with ads, naturally. To those of us still pining for the life of the mind, I ask, where were you and me when it was being uploaded, compressed, and monetized? We squawked here on this show. We've been covering this stuff, unraveling it, unveiling it for years. But unfortunately, there is no true public space where we can get stuff done together. We just share information. Now, we're going to have to be super creative. I mean, think of what we've done in this country. Or on Earth, period, as people. We've traded the Library of Alexandria for an AI chatbot that can write your grandma's eulogy in the style of Taylor Swift lyrics. And we liked it. So now we are post-education, post-labor, post-citizen. We're consumers with strawberry-stained fingers and social credit scores based on how well we smile at drone cameras. The machines do the thinking. We do the picking. And the world hums along efficient and empty. Progress. It really does make ignorance feel like a lifestyle choice. End of transmission. Why? But I feel so much better. And my brain hurts after cooking that up. We're going to open up the phones now because I can see the switchboard going nuts. Your Harrison hotlines are 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. We're also live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. You can also easily find us live at kpfk.net. That's kpfk.net. Also, please don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at caryharrison.com. There you're going to get special content that we are forbidden to present on the radio. Thanks to the FCC, thanks to the defunding of public radio, and the defunding of PBS. So now I have to do private stuff away from prying eyes to get that to you, if you know what I mean. So that's our newsletter at caryharrison.com. We're going to pause for a second. We're going to give some love to this radio station because without it, none of this information would get out.
Smells like fish. Tastes like chocolate.
It's the Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
And it is Cary Harrison. Well, we have got something so mighty for you. It is soniferous. It is non-cacophonic, and it is actually helpful and will spark and make your mind aglow. And I'm talking about music from the greatest of all, Sir Elton John. Let me bring on the great Gary Baca in our live studio at KPFK. Gary, do we have something that anybody with two ears, even one ear, even one monophonic hole would appreciate?
Absolutely, Cary. And in the background, we hear Elton John and Brandi Carlile. This is Little Richard's Bible. So we are offering this CD, the new CD, Who Believes in Angels, for a $60 donation to the station. This $60 helps Cary Harrison and the Cary Harrison Files stay on the air. And if you're pledging already and you're now on the phone, go ahead and get yourself a CD for a $60 gift from us. Support for the Cary Harrison Files comes in part from Interscope Records, presenting Who Believes in Angels, a new album by Elton John and Brandi Carlile. Further information is available at interscope.com. We also have the vinyl available in tricolor. It's in rainbow, limited edition, $120 donation. We only have a limited amount of copies for this. So once again, folks, go to your phone, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. Listening to Little Richard's Bible from Elton John and Brandy Carlisle's Who Believes in Angels. So many other good songs here. How about Who Believes in Angels? This is the title track.
Who does? And even Belinda Carlisle would love this. So you were right, Gary. I know you slipped that in.
Oh,
but
yeah.
You knew she would love it. You knew that she would sit in a bathtub with bubbles up to her chin with just one painted fingernail poking up through the bubbles, swirling it around in the air, going, I dig this, Elton John. $60 to give to KPFK to provide uninterrupted content that will be legacy content, the last living radio station west of the Mississippi with these watts and this kind of freedom of speech. Wow.
818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK is a number to call, and this is a great collaboration, studio collaboration between Elton John and Brandy Carlisle. It mixes Elton, his songs, and Brandy, her songs, together with longtime collaborator Bernie Taupin. And so he was the one that wrote most of the hits for Elton John during the 70s. So, folks, we're asking you to go to your phone and pick up this new CD by Elton John and Brandy Carlisle, Who Believes in Angels. And this supports KPFK and keeps us on the air. And with your pledge of $60, we'll send you a copy of Who Believes in Angels. And or get yourself a CD or album, LP. The LP is a $120 donation to the station. And this is vinyl tricolor limited edition vinyl. So if you're a vinyl junkie out there and you want to get this, call now and let the phone room know that you would like to pledge your support at either $60 or $120 and get both. Get the CD and LP and give one out to a gift, to a friend, whatever you can do. 818-985-5735.
Thank you, Gary Baca. I don't know if I should be embarrassed or not, but I still have a record player.
Oh, I have one too.
Yeah, I know. It's hot. Finding needles, not so hot, but they're out there. I know they are. I know I can find a diamond needle somewhere, but I love it. Vinyl is rich and warm. And to have Elton John and Brandy Carlisle while drinking brandy, if you're into that kind of thing, get squiffed, have fun, find a little pleasure in this dreadful time in which we all live. If you recharge your batteries, you can do good in the world. So please pick up the phone, call 818-985-KPFK, make a $60 or $120 pledge. You're going to get all that cool stuff that Gary Baca was talking about and support this radio station. And most importantly, support our shot here at the Cary Harrison Files to continue to do this research and get this information out, even now privately, because the FCC won't let us say half the stuff on the radio. But thank God for the internet. This is one upside. Thank God you can go there and we've got like private audio there that nobody else is going to be able to hear that's got the real inside skinny. Please pick up the phone, call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Make that donation, $60, $120. Get the Elton John and Brandy Carlisle album. Get the vinyl. Oh, my God. Even if you don't have a record player, put that bad boy up on the wall. Hell, we'll sign it with it. Somebody will sign it with a Sharpie. Have somebody sign it with a Sharpie. And then you can do, as the president would say, that's authentic. It's real. Why not? And those are the same numbers, by the way, that you're calling in on. And we're going to go to the phones in just a second at 818-985-KPFK. Use that phone, pick it up, call either to donate or to call in and be on the air. Either one is the right choice. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. And now back to the show.
This pussy grabs back. The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
And wow is all I can say. I'm like exhausted after that giant monologue, but I feel purged in a great way. I need to point out that support for the Cary Harrison Files does come in part from Interscope Records, presenting Who Believes in Angels, the new album by Elton John and Brandy Carlisle. Further information is available at interscope.com. Coming up, just a reminder, at the end of this hour, we're going to do something special. We've never done it before. We're going to continue live streaming on both Substack and YouTube, and there we're going to have an exclusive private interview with none other than Star Trek Voyager's Tim Russ. He played Tuvok in Star Trek Voyager. He's a deep thinker and has been bravely defending the DEI dream of Gene Roddenberry. It's going to be exclusively live streamed at the end of this show as we continue and where we can speak freely. And you can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube to continue watching us live stream, or you can go to kpfk.net. Gene Roddenberry, as you know, I mean, imagine 1965 in color, on color TV, taking Nichelle Nichols, Uhura, a African-American woman, putting her on the bridge as an officer, sit her next to Leonard Nimoy, a Vulcan, obviously Hebrew. I mean, all the world's enemies, a Soviet, Chekhov, a Scotsman, really the whole soup, cat, and pizzas all in one place during a time where everyone was in the middle of a Cold War. And he showed that it worked. They had a prime directive to really do no harm and not pollute and destroy other cultures. What a dream. And so we're going to talk about that coming up. Here's where you're going to come in, my fellow tracked and processed data mammals. This isn't just a dystopia for passive consumption. I want to hear from you. Are you buying into the gospel of techno efficiency? Or are you one camera glitch away from filing for digital asylum? Have you seen Doge's long hand clawing through your records? Do you think Lord Kikius Maximus is building the future or bulldozing the past? The lines are open. Yes, you sitting there clutching your VPN like a rosary, now that we have a new pope, dream scrolling through the ruins of democracy. I want to hear your voice. Pick up the phone and call 818-985-5735. Those are your Harrison hotlines. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Do you worry that your Social Security will go bye-bye? A lot of people forget that's an annuity. It's not some weird government gift where they just decide to be generous because your name is Mildred and you're 150 years old. No, it's an annuity. You started working, you started paying into it. I don't care how old you are. It's been around, well, maybe, no, it's probably been around your whole lifetime. So you probably always paid into it. Compulsory, cannot opt out. It's an annuity. And the reason you paid into it, hundreds of thousands, was that someday, like a 401k, you would draw from your own annuity that you paid into. The idea of taking it away as if it's just a gift from the gods is wrong. And the idea that it's obsolete or that you've been told it's a Ponzi scheme, not true. Do you worry that it's going to go bye-bye? They've already told you they want to. Do you think that this Congress can protect you? What would you do to get the Congress to protect you? What have you already done to try to get these somnambulant gutter snipes to rise from the feculence that is their sleepy time beds? I don't know. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, your Harrison hotlines. Let's go to Regina in Sherman Oaks. Hi, Regina. You're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Oh, I'm on the air? Okay.
Yes, you are.
All right. Well, hello. Yes, I was just listening to your last, when you were talking about the world being taken over by robots, which was very interesting. But I tried to download CaryHarrison.com and it said the site is not available.
Oh, thank you for that. Thank you. That's probably called,
Yeah.
that's a death loop.
So I want to get on the newsletter and stay on top of it since the FCAA is not taking care of us. So what do I do?
You wait until the end of the show, and I'm going to go in with my own mouse and Mousetrap and fix the website caryharrison.com so you can get in, okay?
Okay, and is it with a K or a C?
With a
Cary?
C, CaryHarrison.com.
Oh, Cary. Okay, that's my fault. I spelled
Ah,
it
so you were looking for John Cary's website.
No, I'm looking for yours.
Even better. Even better. My joke didn't work at all, but you do work, Regina, and I appreciate your call.
Okay. All right, so Carey or
Nope.
Cary?
Cary, like Cary Grant. Dead, you know.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And I love your show, and it's so informative, and just keep going.
Thank you,
We need
Regina.
you.
I will. I need you too. Without you, there's no me.
Okay.
So together
That's
we
right.
go.
We stick together. All right, Mr. Cary. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day. That's Regina at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, your Harrison hotlines, Cary Harrison, by the way, .com for the newsletter. Let's go to Richard in Highland Park. You're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Oh, I was calling Cary Grant. Darn.
Well, hello.
Oh, okay, here's my deal, and I'm sorry it's so short, but at pasoir.com, that's P as in Paul, asoir.com, it's the only place I've heard of anyone saying, whether or not they can do it, I don't know, but they say they can, I don't know if it's a they or a person, legally, constitutionally rid us of Trump. It's the only place. Everybody else speaks of impeachment and they do it this way and wait till 2028 and all that stuff. This thing, and I'm telling you, I don't know if it's real, but I suggest that you and everybody look at it and ask them, because I think what they're attempting to do, when I asked, is said, we need to produce a groundswell before we say or do anything. If people aren't up to this, then we're lost. We just, we're done. And they're saying, no, we need to do it now. So please have your listeners, you and your listeners, go at this and email them. They have an email address there. So, and all your work, thank you for all your work.
You're welcome, my friend. Thank you so much for that update. That's Harold and that's Richard in Highland Park. We're going to go to Harold next. As far as I know, the only cure for a bad president, even one that the Supreme Court has said is infallible, as a pope would be, can do no wrong as long as it's an official act. Nothing is off the table. I mean, Dickie Nixon would have loved this moment in time. But the only cure the Constitution has is impeachment, which you can impeach 1,000 times, but unless the Senate turns it into a trial and says, see ya, it doesn't mean anything. Clinton was impeached. Trump was impeached, twice last time? It's just noise unless the Senate decides to have a trial. And this Senate, I'm not so convinced. So really, what will it take to stimulate this parliament of whores into putting away their negligees, putting back on their suits, and being grown-ups? I mean, thank God we have congressmen like Adam Schiff and Shifty Schiff. Thank God we've got some statesmen to AOC. Bernie at 87, pointing his fingers in the air. I mean, it takes an octogenarian, almost a nonagenarian, to stand up. Like, how can there be 3 or 4 or 5 out of a body of nearly 400? I mean, it's mind-numbing. So maybe this pissoir, however you pronounce it, maybe that'll help. I'd heard of it, I think from this same guy before, but it hasn't become public. So if you guys learn about it and there's something there, please let me know. Let's go next to Harold in Santa Barbara. You're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Good morning, I think. But anyway, as always, you're on top of the curve. It's fantastic. And I'm glad you brought in Adam Schiff, because my question is directly related to him. In California, they are already implementing the substructure or the infrastructure to support this giant AI and the robot revolution. They're already providing the water, the gas, and the electricity. Now, remember, the water's got to be super pure. For the state of California, may be like, well, Detroit, Michigan. We'll get the leftovers that is left to operate the energy for the robots.
It's interesting you say that, Harold, because the fresh water, a lot of it that we get, let's just say most of it comes out of the Rockies. You know, it's snow melt that comes through the Colorado River. It enters Utah, goes through Nevada, and flows down the Colorado River, which is pretty dried up at the end. It's navigable by boat by about 4 feet. You look at not Lake Havasu, but Mead, where the dam is, and there's now refrigerators poking up out of the water. So it's all crazy. The biggest server farms, many of them are in Utah, because the Mormons, interestingly enough, being the great archivers of all things human, being the folks that can tell you who your great, 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 great grandmother's needlepoint sewer was. I mean, incredible. They're the ones that showed interest and said, look, we've got lots of real estate. We've got many, 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 many metric miles that we can fill with giant server farms and warehouses for data. Every JPEG, every text, every piece of porn that's watched, all archived forever and now accessible to the government. All that to say, they're the ones that have access to that water first, because of location and because of the importance of what they do. So it's up to us, we the people, to rearrange what we consider important. And California is what? Still the 6th, 5th largest economy in the world. It has a sizable footprint, and it has a real gavel to put down on the table. So it'll be interesting to see if, speaking of gavels, if Gavin Newsom wields that particular power, or if he continues, as has been his recent ways in his podcast, to, court the center and the right. I mean, these are such extraordinary times, and I really appreciate your call, my friend. All right, that opens up a line at 818-985-5735. I want to hear your thoughts on all of this at 818-985-KPFK. Those are your Harrison hotlines. While you're calling in, we're going to have a quick pause, give some love to the station for loving us back.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
And it is Cary Harrison, and we've been talking about music a little earlier because we have something so cool, so unique, so awesome, that if you want the fires raging in your belly to be softened by the cooling waters of beauty and magic, we have the solution for you. And it's our way of supporting you back. And speaking of support for the Cary Harrison Files does come in part from Interscope Records, presenting, this is what we're going to talk about for a second, Who Believes in Angels? It's the new album by Elton John and Brandy Carlisle. You can get further information at Interscope.com. And the great Gary Baca, well, you are the Socrates of all things known and unknown about this awesome album, including the vinyl.
Yes, Cary, for a $120 donation, you can get the vinyl. This is in tricolored limited edition. We don't have very many. We're limited. So pledge your support for Cary Harrison Files at 818-985-5735. Get the CD, Who Believes in Angels, for a $60 donation, or get the vinyl for a $120 donation. You don't have to get it all at the same time. You can break this down and become a sustainer and pay $10 a month, whatever you can afford, $20 a month, but get yourself a copy. And this way you support KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles. You get songs like Who Believes in Angels, You Without Me, Never Too Late, Swing for the Fences, Little Richard's Bible, The Rose of Laura Nero, The Riverman, A Little Light, Someone to Belong To, which we hear in the background, When This Old World Is Done With Me. And most of these songs are co-written by Bernie Taupin, who is a longtime collaborator with Elton John. So we're asking you to go to your phone now and get this CD for a $60 donation. That's 3 payments. If you want to become a sustainer at $20, 818-985-5735 is the number to call. Hit option 2 and that'll take you to the phone room. But the gift really is the Cary Harrison show. So if you
say that again.
Cary Harrison Files. If you've listened to this show before and laughed and, it made your day, it's important. If you've learned something and been educated, 818-985-5735. Pledge your support for it. And, as soon as Cary's show is done, they ban it right away in Florida. So you want to find out. So you're lucky we have it right here on KPFK, 818-985-5735. Cary?
Thank you so much, Gary Baca. And by the way, thank you, Thomas, for pledging, and everyone else as the lines continue to light up at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. It is true. This show at the end renders into a podcast because we're modern. We're also live streaming right now. You can Google Cary Harrison Substack, which is a great new platform with lots and lots of members on it, as well as YouTube, Cary Harrison YouTube. And you'll be able to see the video of this live streaming, including coming up in just a few minutes, Tim Russ, Tuvok from Star Trek Voyager. It's an exclusive private conversation you're going to be able to hear after the radio broadcast ends. And the reason that Gary Baca brought that up is when this show does render into a podcast, it becomes an audiobook on Audible, and it gets banned in about 5 to 15 red states. And so people that are able to hear it on Audible or even on Spotify or whatever, digitally that way, it's the only access they have to this kind of information. Thousands of books are now banned. Access to everything is completely gone, firewalled. This is the way we're teaching now. We, you and me together, because of us together, we are able to offer this kind of remote schooling, and it has a value, but we can only do it if we support this station with a $60 or $120 donation, and you get all that great stuff. You get the album from Elton John and Brandi Carlile, Who Believes in Angels. Simply pick up the phone, call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, and make that donation now. Thank you again, Thomas. Thank you again to everyone else. And now, back to the show.
Listen, well, it's still legal.
The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
And it is the Cary Harrison Files. Cary Harrison with you. Taking your calls, talking about Lord Kikius Maximus. I know, it sounds like a Game of Thrones name. Not mine. Mr. Musk renamed himself on X some time ago as Lord Kikius Maximus. So why not use the proper moniker? What he has done by carving it up, and we talked in the first half of the show about the plot of the play. The plot of the play, all of this is about unleashing AI nationwide. So you have one guy that owns all the telecommunications. You have one guy that owns all the satellites. The satellites bring you not radio, but TV. The satellites bring you the internet. Satellites bring you and connect you with everything. Same guy now owns NASA through SpaceX. What used to be yours and mine, JFK, we went to the moon together. Dick Nixon sent us to the moon, but it was you and me that owned NASA. Now it's SpaceX. So you have one guy that owns pretty much everything. Also a government with many different areas of it going after this one guy for some, shall we say, naughty behavior. Every one of those arms of government is now gone. In other words, if you had 12 different cops coming after you for 12 different crimes, and you got rid of the 12 cops, what crime has been committed? None. Simple as that. The military has been doing that for years. If a part is listed to last 5 years and they don't want to go and refit everything, they just simply have it relabeled to last 15 years. It's the same kind of thinking, and it works. It's actually efficiency, government efficiency, if you are the actual government. And it's supposed to be a government that functions at the will of those who consent to be governed, but no longer is your consent needed. No longer are schools needed because AI will make all the decisions, do all of the training for you and me. It will become the doctors. Robots will do the surgery. How many videos and TV stories have you seen? How cool that is. This robot can go in and do microsurgery. Well, there it is. So all these brain surgeons and all these incredible people with highly advanced skill sets and a bedside manner, they have become the new word of the day, redundant too. And redundancy does not make money. Let's go to Nancy in Costa Mesa. You're on the Cary Harrison Files.
Oh, good. Thank you. You know, you just mentioned Utah being the home of this. I must tell you, when the pandemic hit, I was a teacher in the community colleges, and I and millions of teachers I was sent to boot camp for 2 weeks to be taught how to teach remotely. And I assumed my colleagues in the classroom would be my fellow teachers, but no. All the teachers were from Utah, and they were all, and the students were all from religious colleges. And I thought, what is this? Are they trying to like make the case why they should become, supported by taxpayer dollars? But now that you're saying they're from Utah, I imagine they've collected all those webinars of teaching, and now they've can incorporate that into their AI, and so they have classes in every topic already made up.
Yeah, it's true. And regular AI, call it Chat GPT, call it Gemini, call it Meta, which is the Facebook version. The one that is being released by Lord Kikius Maximus has a different name, and it's called what was it called? Neuralink, right? Something like that. I totally forget. Anyway, his one is not out there in the broad sphere yet because his is going to be based on government data. Government data is your actual specifics. So, for example, ChatGPT, which many people are familiar with, it scrapes the internet, which means all the stupid blogs, all the conspiracy theory stuff that's true, some is not true, recipes that are good, the same recipe for the same food that's bad. It doesn't matter. It doesn't discriminate. It takes everything and then synthesizes its perception of it. With this AI, it's going to be exact real stuff. And then it's going to be able to go after whatever. And I'm so sorry we're out of time, but Nancy, you are a rock star, and I really appreciate your calling in. So have a great day, and thank you. I want everyone to hang on. We are finishing up the Cary Harrison Files. Don't forget, you can get our newsletter at caryharrison.com, caryharrison.com, and there we do stuff that is absolutely forbidden by the FCC now that they've defunded public radio and PBS. I want you to hang on, because coming up in about a minute and a half, we are going to be bringing on the live stream. Simply Google Cary Harrison YouTube or Cary Harrison Substack, Cary, like Cary Grant, and you're going to be able to watch the great Tim Russ, Tuvok from Star Trek Voyager, who is an outspoken, brilliant guy fighting for the DEI. And if you're a live human, you're probably diverse in some way. You probably want a little equity. Maybe you want to even be included. But you want it from a guy who is brilliant and has seen it all, understands Roddenberry, understands what the future can and should look like. So that's coming up on the live stream only. So make sure you check that out. Cary Harrison with you. This is the Cary Harrison Files, and I look forward to seeing you next Friday.
This pussy grabs back.
The Cary Harrison Files. CaryHarrison.com.
All righty. I am going to say hello to Renee Yawarski for a second while we're waiting for Tim Russ to join us here, because I just want to thank her personally for the extraordinary and exquisite hard work that she does, and the fact that she's brilliant. So I have to get on bended knee in supplication because that's my way. Renee, are you there to say hello?
Well, only because you were bending your knee and you were supplicating. So I was beckoned, but if you had fallen short, then I would not have appeared. I'm like a genie. You have to rub the lamp before I can appear.
Well, there's so many erotic metaphors there that I'm like completely on board. And that when you're with me, you're safe.
I'm very safe, and we're doubly safe because now we are only on social media. So we have now wrapped the show, the FCC show, and now we are sort of free, I would say, right?
That's a good point. We are free of the impediment of FCC regulations. In the last hour, there are a ton of things we just literally can no longer say. And
exactly.
It's not words like pee-pee or tinkle or whatever that maybe you should or shouldn't say out of maybe basic good taste.
I was very offended when you said pee-pee, but anyways, go on. I'll get over it.
But there's just ideas that you no longer can say. And
Right.
So we have had to tiptoe around all kinds of different things in order to make them fit and work. And that's the unfortunate issue that we've been dealing with when it comes to the FCC. But this is why we're doing this special right now broadcast live. We are going to replay it on the radio next week because it's important that those people, millions of people across Los Angeles and many of our other stations going from Palm Springs to even banned in red states, that they get to hear the voice of Tim Russ, who I understand is showing up right about now. So let me just jump on into it because here we are doing this special after show. All right, let me find where we are here in our stream. Okay. By the way, very important to point out that support for the Cary Harrison Files does come in part from Interscope Records, which presents Who Believes in Angels. It's the new album by Elton John and Brandy Carlisle. Further information is available at interscope.com. And we are live streaming right now on Substack and YouTube. You can simply Google Cary Harrison Substack or YouTube so we can stay connected when you arrive at your destination. That's if somehow you're listening on your mobile device as a continuous radio listener. You can also find us live at kpfk.net, kpfk.net. And don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at CaryHarrison.com. Cary spelled like Cary Grant, Cary. And there you're going to get special content that we're forbidden to present on radio, thanks to the FCC, thanks to the defunding of public radio, thanks to the defunding of PBS. And it's private and away from prying eyes, if you know what I mean. And that's our newsletter at CaryHarrison.com. Well, here we are again, teetering on the jagged edge of progress like a drunk tightrope walker over a canyon full of terms and conditions. This is a special edition of the Cary Harrison Files, still broadcasting from inside the belly of the algorithmic beast, armed with a microphone, a moral hangover, and just enough bandwidth to piss off the surveillance gods. Today's flavor of dystopia? Just the usual, governments gorging on your metadata like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet of broken privacy, tech billionaires trying to colonize Mars because Earth is too full of poor people, and a current government shoving culture through a blender until it sounds like a TikTok remix of Orwell and Huxley doing karaoke. But fear not, you sentient flesh pudding. You're not alone. We're all stumbling through this simulated reality together. We're clutching our smartphones like digital rosaries, now that we have a new pope, praying to the church of the algorithm for one more dopamine hit before bedtime. And who better to help us navigate this beautifully absurd hellscape than a man who's seen the future firsthand from the bridge of a Federation starship. Joining us today is none other than Tim Russ. He's an actor, director, musician, space navigator, and a man of 1,000 hats, all worn with elegance and exquisite competence. You'll remember him as Tuvok from Star Trek Voyager, the only guy on that ship who didn't fall for every spatial anomaly or temporal paradox like it was a free cruise. But Tim's resume doesn't stop at space. He's composed music. He's directed FBI commercials. Yep, the FBI. And voiced more characters than your average hallucinating screenwriter. Tim is one of the most articulate and conscious advocates for common sense and human decency in the matrix that is now so upside down that a Presbyterian U.S. president has declared himself a Catholic pope. Mr. Russ brings some sobriety back to Twitter, X, and some sanity at a time when we all need more of it. Tim Russ, I want to welcome you to the Cary Harrison Files.
Thank you very much, Cary. A pleasure to be here. Appreciate it. Thank you for the intro.
It was voluped. Tim Russ, you've navigated black holes and bureaucracies. What's more dangerous to you, a Romulan warbird or the current level of propaganda and double speak raining down from DC?
Well, the thing about a Romulan warbird is that, it's very clear, that they're the bad guys and you're the good guys. And now it's no longer clear who are the bad guys and who are the good guys. That's the main difference, Cary, is that, the Romulan warbird's coming at you, it's pretty much laid out and clear what's going to happen and what it's all about. And now it's just, nothing but mass confusion and disinformation, and nobody knows what, half the time knows what's real and what isn't real, and what's AI and what isn't AI. And, so now today you can't even rely on what you're listening to or watching or hearing, because you're not even sure if it's real.
Yeah, there was an era where whatever we saw, you made. I mean, you directed your own Star Trek movie, and you had like live human actors, and you had sets, and you had all of that stuff, because without you creating that, it wouldn't have been done. Now, they can efficiently replicate you and me, and sometimes we might not even know the difference. So it's a special kind of, I don't know, it's a dangerous trickery, especially you as a storyteller, as an Imagineer, using a Disney term, but that's what you are as a creative.
Well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I was just I had to do a presentation at this tech company recently, and I'm not a tech IT person, but they asked me to come and do this information. They wanted to have my perspective from the entertainment business as an actor and a director about how AI is going to be infiltrating. It's already infiltrating the film business as it is, because now even in wide shot scenes with a lot of people, the big panoramas where people are walking around, those are all AIs. You don't have to use extras in background for that. That's just generated by AI. Crowd scenes in stadiums, all AI. Your background in some of the larger scenes with a lot of people could be AI. As a matter of fact, they are, and they will be even more so as we move along in terms of background people and actors, even in smaller scenes like coffee shops. You can replace them with AI right now. Nobody's gonna know the difference. Not to mention aging people up or down at random. And so therefore the makeup artists for those larger projects may no longer be needed, because they'll simply just smooth you out or fix any problems or make you look older or younger with just in post and CG. And I'm sure they're doing that now. I think I saw a film not long ago, just recently, where I'm sure the actress that was in that film, that is not her face today. That her face has been smoothed out in post. I know it is, because I've seen photographs, and there's a big difference. So that they can tweak all that now just with a computer, and that's today.
Yeah, the only downside is that you can't make that portable and actually wear it out to the grocery store, because then it would be acceptable.
Yeah, well, that's the issue, right? At least not now. Down the line with in a Black Mirror world, we might be that might change. Who knows? We might be wearing some contacts that make everybody look amazing. So it's just all of that, the way that culture and stuff is influenced by tech. I mean, we're living it now, obviously, with the tech that we do have already. We're doing Zoom sessions on tech. We don't have to do in-person interviews. We use our phone for damn near everything and anything. And that is not going to go away. It's just going to become more and more prolific, more and more integrated into the human condition. I mean, I joke with my daughter, she's 26. I said, it won't be that long before you'll be telling your own kids, that, you used to use a cell phone and have to touch the screen. All of that's going to is just there's no stopping this beast. I mean, and the genie's well out of the bottle, and down the highway and, into the next state. So that's what's coming. That's where it's going. My only other fear is that, it can be used nefariously by people creating situations, whether through audio recording or through visual, that can condemn somebody to having done something wrong or illegal and or embarrassing or unethical, and they haven't done it. So that you can replicate somebody's voice right now. In fact, the AI is just defeated and won, as it were, the Turing contest. The Turing contest was set up to demonstrate the capabilities of AI compared to a human, and being able to say that, when the contest is out and people are listening to AI or listening to humans, that they would not be able to tell. They would be able to tell the difference between a human and an AI. Well, now, just recently, in a comparison test of a conversation with a human versus a conversation with an AI, 73% of the people chose the AI and thought that was human. So it's now defeated the Turing contest, which was forever standing.
Named after Alan Turing.
Alan Turing, yes.
Yeah.
So it's now defeated that. So the line between what's real and what's AI, what's real and what's imaginary, what's real and what's faked or created is growing ever thin. So,
well, thankfully, Tim Russ, people like you will be able to still tell. Like when you hear an AI voice, the inflection is off. There's something you can tell that's not right. The average person, yeah, they probably won't know the difference. There's a guy named Jeff Fishback who's a forensic, I don't even know what the term is, but we had on the show maybe a year ago an actor who was in one of the Star Trek movies, as a matter of fact.
Right.
And he had AI had faked, there's an app, a fake dating app, where you can pretend you're dating a celebrity. And it'll bring up the celebrity. It'll chat back and forth with you because it learns your personality. So it knows how to flirt with you as the celebrity. And then it allegedly sent a naughty picture. Well, this was a girl of 16 in another state, so it became a thing. It turns out it wasn't real, of course, but there is no normal government entity, and I'm not talking about the new government we have, but this is a year ago. There was no infrastructure to figure out, was this real or not, except for this one guy. You, as a director, as an artist, you're going to always have that special eye. So I wonder if there's going to be a new skill set for you to try to determine, is it real or not?
Yeah. Well, for somebody, for a child that's growing up, we may be able to say we can tell the difference, or we may be critical of this difference. But for a child that's only, 5 years old right now, 3 years old, somebody being born is not going to be able to tell the difference, or not going to care, but much less care. What they see and what they've been programmed and hardwired to see is going to be what they see, and then what they accept as real. And that technology is exponentially becoming more and more sophisticated. So it's only going to be a matter of time before you won't be able to tell the difference. It's just a matter of computing power. That's all it is. The faster the processor, the more accurate and more detailed these motions and things will be. And eventually they will be able to get the nuances of a human face accurately, and the nuances of a human voice accurately. Right now, the voice is already getting there. To the point where like I said, in the Turing contest, 73% of people couldn't tell the difference. So it's already there. It's just going to get more and more and more like this. And our culture, for some of us, we're going to have to adapt to those changes, and others of us are going to be born and raised and growing into those things.
You just brought up a really interesting point, Tim Russ, about what people will accept. It's just because it's objectionable to you and me, because we like original content. We don't think plagiarism is particularly cool. We do think copyrights are not a bad idea, etc. Everyone else doesn't have to believe that, or they don't have skin in the game the same way. And so they'll accept it if it's ding, checks the box, entertaining. It checks the box for
Yes.
this, checks the box for dopamine delivery. So who cares if it's real or not? But then that puts us even deeper in the hole. And as an artist, you have to balance creativity with the reality that AI is not going away. So what's the sweet spot? Is there one?
Well, listen, if you're the creator, if you're manufacturing, if you're the one that's putting out and creating the artwork, what's going to happen is you can choose as an artist or creator to not use AI to that extent, or you can choose to use AI to that extent. What people, in my business, what's most important is what kind of story are you telling? Is the story still interesting? Is the story still good? What it looks like on the screen may come down to the use of more and more AI. That's entirely possible. But you can also stay and remain old school. That is the choice of the people who are producing. Some big producers and film directors are still shooting on film rather than using digital cameras. I think digital cameras are easier to use. They're more economical. You have a lot more capability to protect, also to make sure that your shots are good, because you can download them right there on the set, right on the day that you're shooting, and make sure that you've got the takes you got and there's no mistakes or no issues. And you can make backups of those 2 or 3 times. So to me, that medium is much more practical when it comes to directing or film production. But some people choose to shoot on film still. They want that old school film look, and they like that old school film texture, etc. And the style and the type of work that it comes down to. And that's, so you still have people that will reach back and they will adopt and still use an older technology. And that can go from now till, a number of years in the future, the same thing. You can choose to use real background, or you can choose to use AI background. You can choose to use AI to make somebody look older, or you can use a makeup artist to make them look older. You'll have that choice. I just think that the younger people coming up aren't going to care. They're going to use whatever's expedient and cost effective, and that looks just as good, and nobody knows the difference. That's what they're going to be thinking. That's going to be their mindset of what's happening, especially when it becomes, like I said, more economical to do so. Is it more economical to hire a makeup artist and for the actor to be longer in hours in the makeup chair and take longer to get on set and more, this kind of other thing? Or will it be easier and cheaper just to have the guy in the computer in post just smooth it out? That's what it's going to come down to.
The question, didn't you?
Yeah.
But women are still going to be using makeup for a while. But that's not the same thing.
Not the same thing.
Until it becomes not the same thing.
Yeah,
Cary
only live, like you said, only live. Only live.
We're joined by actor Tim Russ. He's also a director, a musician, a voiceover warlock, and yes, former tactical officer of the starship Voyager as Tuvok. He's played Shakespeare. He's fought space lizards. He's directed commercials for the FBI and still found time to release real music that you don't need an algorithm to enjoy. Tim Russ, let's talk for a second about Star Trek Voyager.
Mm-hmm.
Would Tuvok, in today's non-DEI landscape where everyone is prickly and walking on eggshells, would they go for that?
Would they go for a character like Tuvok?
Yeah.
Well, in today's world, in today's environment, that could be a problem, because he would be seen as an outsider, immigrant. He would be seen as an alien, quote unquote. So that may or may not play in today's world. Not right now, at least not in the hands of some of those who call themselves running the country. In a normal world, absolutely, it would be, nobody would blink twice. And especially on the streets of Los Angeles, nobody cares. But in the future, that's a whole different story. Yeah, it's people talk about comparing Star Trek to the current times and wondering, if we'll ever get to the point where we see things the way that they do in the Star Trek universe. Yeah, I mean, over time, evolution, cultural evolution is going to occur. You can't stop evolution as a concept. You can't stop it. and you can't stop cultural evolution as well. Once the seeds of an idea are planted, they are going to grow. And in fact, I've heard recently that it was suggested that, look, societies, rather than evolving over just a sort of slow, sort of gradual plane, upheaval, social upheaval, cultural upheaval, political upheaval may, in fact, help to the society, the culture, to evolve more positively in the long run. Like this upheaval could shift people's, perspective. Maybe they'll say maybe they'll say down the line, look, we don't want to do that again. We don't want to go there again. And I'll give you an example. World War II, all of the countries in Europe were killing each other en masse for centuries, as far back as the Middle Ages. And it was up until the middle of the 19th century, the 1900s rather, where World War II occurred. And there was so much upheaval, so much destruction, so much misery and chaos that now the European countries are all united. They're no longer doing any of that. So that changed the relationship between those countries. Unfortunately, World War I did not do it, but World War II did. And as bad as it was, and here again, the Reich was promised to be 1,000 years. Well, it only lasted 4 or 5. So how long will the turmoil and the upheaval last? Probably not that long. So I think if we come out of this, at least reasonably standing on our feet, that it's a good chance, and I'm hoping this happens. But it's if the situation is similar to what's happened in the past, maybe this will be something that allows our society to grow exponentially rather than on a gradual plane, and also grow in a more positive way.
I agree with you. I think we've already seen crystal knocked with the metaphorical chainsaw, blowing up the government, disenfranchising anyone who is not a white Christian Protestant
heterosexual,
exactly. And the rest of you can eat cake, except you don't get any because it's expensive.
Yeah.
And you're going to have, the modern variant of pitchforks and peasants, however we articulate that as Americans. But, I was talking earlier about people who paid into Social Security. A lot of people might not realize it's an annuity. It's like a 401k. You've been paying.
Insurance policy. Yes, insurance policy.
Yeah, but it's your private insurance policy. That's earmarked for you. It's not a gift from the government. Here's some free money. We're going to run the printing press. You paid into it. It's your money. And if they take it, well, that's naughty.
Yeah. In point of fact, what you're talking about, Social Security, when it was originally conceived, and by the way, for all those who are listening, that was a democratic concept. Okay. All of the social programs, almost all of them, have been democratic concepts, just so everybody's aware of which party is either looking out for you and which one isn't. But the Republican Party, starting with Ronald Reagan, it's a black and white piece of footage of him doing a spot on air for television, talking about the evils of Social Security when it was originally proposed, talking about the fact that it would destroy the country's economy. That's on camera. And he was as a spokesperson for the Republican Party because they did not want Social Security. The original concept for the Federalists, who basically Mitch McConnell and the rest of these guys, originally Hamilton was a Federalist. The Federalists don't believe that the government should be serving the people in any capacity, to speak of. That is not what their position is. It should be conserving the wealthy and the powerful, and that's what we have right now. So that whole concept of Social Security was, when it was born, they fought against it from the very beginning. Since that time, all the way to today, when they want to privatize everything. See, privatize is for the rich, for the powerful, to put more money in their pockets rather than the government. Government is there, paid for by the taxpayers. That's all of us. It is there to fill the gaps when private industry is not. Private industry has no intention or concern. Corporations are not there, unlike Citizens United is not a person, it's not people. Mm-hmm. It is not there for that. It's there to make profit. The whole doctrine of a corporation or company is to make profit. That it automatically excludes anything else for anybody else. So the government that we all pay taxes into is designed to fill in the gaps so that the price of insulin isn't $4,000 a month, for people who need it to live. And that's where the government steps in. The Obamacare, the health care that put 31 million people were able to get health insurance. It didn't have it before, is the same thing. They demonized it when it was conceived. They demonized it. Oh, it'll destroy it'll wreck the economy, the blah, 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 blah. That's the same story, because they did not want that money going to the people. And that's all this comes down to, man. We have an oligarchy. We have people who have so much money, more money than God, and they still want more. I don't know what that's all about, but they want all the tax dollars to go to them, not to you. And that's all it comes down to, really.
Well, isn't that lovely?
Yeah,
And exactly
that's
true. Well, there aren't words to better say what you just said. So let's honor the time, and I know we're running short here. Let's talk a little bit about your directing Star Trek and keeping the Roddenberry dream alive, because I would tell you that 75% of Americans are decent, good people. It's just maybe the bottom third has been hoodwinked. There's been gerrymandering, so much disenfranchising of voters, caging, every possible way to remove votes from African Americans, from Asians, from Latinos, generally speaking, from anyone who might vote with a D. Louis DeJoy, the Postmaster General, formerly plucking 10,000 metal mailboxes out of soil that was in zip codes that had a lot of Democratic voters. Just a million ways to skin that cat. Jim Crow is back in full force. So we now have a new president that is creating a grift, as he would say, the likes of which we've never seen before, except we did in Germany during the almost 1,000-year Reich of 4 years. And here we are in the reality. You've directed your own Star Trek movies to keep the Roddenberry dream alive. And I think most of us actually want that world.
Yes. Well, absolutely. I mean, like you said, it's a percentage of the population that's, for any number of reasons, have gone down the rabbit hole and have joined the cult. And, it's human beings, man. I don't, as the character Tuvok, I would just look at him sideways and just with a slight glance and raise an eyebrow and say, think to myself, what in the world is up with this species? That's our species. We are the biggest problem on this entire planet. We have been, and we still are the biggest problem on this entire planet. They talk about colonizing other worlds, man. I don't know if any of that's going to happen anytime soon. As in the Trek universe, getting out and exploring space. I don't know, maybe down the line. But in the meantime, we have to not only preserve this planet so that the resources are available for us to live, but we have to figure out a way to not annihilate ourselves, which we can still do. We can barbecue this plant 3 times over with the nuclear weapons we have present. And quite honestly, until we as a species, as a human race, are able to eliminate every single nuclear weapon from the face of the earth, we will not be safe from really causing catastrophic damage to our species and setting us back, 300 years. So that is still a goal that needs to be achieved. And it will take a lot of time. It will take, again, evolution, cultural evolution. For example, North Korea being as bad as they are and as isolated as they are, the only time that's going to change is if the leadership of North Korea changes and somebody comes into power that says, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. I want to go over here and do that. And it's the reason that the Berlin Wall came down in Russia. The Soviet Union came down because one person, Gorbachev, said, we're going to do things differently. And that's exactly what happened. Changed that whole place. Now, his predecessors, obviously, was very pissed off about that and is raising hell worldwide and also with our country. Putin is very unhappy as he was a frontline soldier in the communist Soviet Union. So, he's not happy. Not unlike Adolf Hitler, who was also unhappy about World War I and the capitulation of the Germans. Same thing. So they have this hair up their ass. They have to go out and do this. So I think that as far as my the work and stuff that I have done, I have been honored to be able to carry out the continuing vision of Gene Roddenberry, what he envisioned as a Star Trek future. Whenever I had the opportunity, I directed an episode on the actual series Voyager, and a couple of these independent films that were made. Gods and Men is one of the ones that I think are even more attuned to what Roddenberry was looking for. And to have the opportunity to do that, to explore and examine the human condition, and to look at the morals and the situations, the decisions that have to be made, the circumstances that come up, and how do you handle them? How do you deal with them? How do you relate to others that are not like you? And how do you get out of the situation without resorting to absolute violence?
Well, it's a heavy basket of muddy flowers, but it can be done. Humanity does like to resurrect and reboot itself. You put 100 people on an island, pretty soon someone's cutting hair, someone's cooking the food, someone's trading this for that. There's always a Dick Cheney in the room, a Rumsfeld, there's
Yes.
always one looking for
always.
opportunity. But
Always.
maybe the life lesson for all of us is to stay awake and hold on to those values and find a way to protect them and share and communicate with others.
Right.
Like, this is a great time for all of us to be Jonathan Swift again, hang out in coffee shops and say, pardon me, excuse me, and did you know? And create those bonds again, because that's what's going to work.
Yeah, and we have the coffee shops online. We have the social platforms. Where we can all share. Obviously, I do it all the time. My social media is primarily, getting the word out of what is happening, and also whenever I get an opportunity, the pushback, the fight back, the retaliatory efforts of people trying to keep the boat from sinking completely. My goal is to get the information out to people who are not aware of the details. I had a friend of mine before the election who was not going to vote for Trump, but he was not aware of the details in Project 2025. He did not know about the details in that plan, which is now playing out. And we had to explain to him what the details were, because he was simply not aware of them. So he did not get that information. So if you're not, looking for, you're not checking on, you're not open to, you're not, listening to or reading the information, the factual information about what's happening, about what's going on, and the details of that. It's very important. I'll give you a small example. When they were trying to pass Obamacare, one of the things the right-wing media did, and Sarah Palin was a big mouthpiece about it, they were going around talking about death panels in the Obamacare. Death panels. There's a panel of people who are going to decide whether grandma lives or dies. That's how they were propagandizing that program. And that's what people were hearing, okay? But hardly anyone knows. And I'll bet you none of your listeners right now know exactly what they meant by the death panels. They don't know. I know. I know what it was, because I was listening to a source that had the actual information. They weren't death panels. What they were was the doctors wanted compensation, extra compensation, for the extra time that they spend with families at the end of life situations for their loved ones. When they're on the ventilator, when they're on the monitors, when they're on the machines, they call upon the doctor far more times than they would normally do it. And the compensation for the time of the doctor, that's what it was. That's what they call death panels. The difference is astronomical. It's nothing to do with death panels. But the truth, all of a sudden, it's clear as to what they're talking about. But all anybody hears is the buzzword death panels. That's the issue we have today. And I don't even know if there's a Star Trek episode or storyline or anything that comes close to dealing with that aspect of our society. This propagandizing serious disinformation. Saying something is one thing when it is not. Damn it, man, the building is on fire. It's flames. You can feel the heat 13 blocks away, but they will tell you it's not. And that's what we're up against.
the late, great radical historian, he would call himself that, Howard Zinn, famously said, "You can't be neutral on a moving train."
Yeah.
And exactly to your point, many people are worried about their, should they recoil? Should they write anything on the internet anymore? Do they dare be public? Will it be used against them at some point? It could, but if there's no resistance, we know that the bad guys bulldoze over the opportunity. So resistance is not futile.
No, the resistance is what we need. You have to have the resistance. They had it in World War II, and it was very effective. You have to have, I want to compare it to, it's asymmetric warfare is what it is. We got to figure out a way to adopt asymmetric warfare in this situation, because the powers that be have an iron grip and a lot of money behind the mass media. They own, Clear Channel owns 800 radio stations nationwide. Sinclair owns the network, local network broadcasting company through a good chunk of the Midwest, where our 4 states are that decide the entire election, for God's sakes. And then we have, the radio. Everything is taken up by, right-wing media and propaganda. It's all propaganda. So that's what we need asymmetric warfare against, to get people the actual, real, truthful information. And what's crazy is it's 2 taps on your cell phone, man. It's 2 taps on your cell phone. You can get accurate, truthful, factual information counter to what's being put out. So when something comes out, the president says blah, 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 you can go over to somebody's show, podcast, political podcast, and get the actual thing. When he says something about a tariff, I can go listen to somebody talk about, this is what the actual tariff he's talking about is. This is what it actually means. This is why China doesn't have to respond to any tariffs. They don't care, because the fact is China, blah, 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 blah. And so you have the actual information rather than the propaganda that is spread just over and over and over. And that is also the key, over and over and over. Yeah.
Advertising, say the message 6 times, it becomes very personal. You own it, you crave that car, and it works. Tim Russ, how do we follow you? Where do we follow you?
I am on Facebook under my name, and there's no other counterfeit website that I know of. My picture's on there. You can see me. It's on Tim Russ. It's just Facebook, my name. I'm on Instagram. I usually post some political stuff on Instagram, not a lot of videos and things. That's just pictures and images. I'm on Twitter. Again, just type my name in, or it's under, I think it's TR Vulcan under Twitter, but just type my name. You'll get my picture once again is on there. You'll tell it's me. I post everything on there all the time. I post my music gigs when they're coming up. One is tonight, as a matter of fact, in Los Angeles, but that's where you can find me, Facebook and Twitter under my name. That's where I'll be. I have a website, timrusswebpage.com, and I list my personal appearances, music gigs, things like that, and the projects that I'm working on as well. So those are the 3 places you can find me. It's not hard to find me.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. Tim Russ, director, musician, playing tonight, he said, a voiceover warlock, former tactical officer of the Starship Voyager as Tuvok, has played Shakespeare, fought space lizards, directed commercials for the FBI, and still found time to release real music that you don't need an algorithm to appreciate. It's actually audible, and it will speak to your heart. Tim, quick question. We're done now. I still have a copy of Star Trek Gods and Men.
Yes.
And I would love to do a screening for this audience, obviously a stream.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like us to do that?
Yes, absolutely. That would be wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'll let you know when, and if you're open for a very brief Q&A at the end, maybe 10 minutes tops, we'll keep it sober.
Sure.
That would be awesome.
That'd be fabulous. Yeah. Just let me know what time and we can figure out, so make sure I'm available for it, and I'll come and do it.
Roger that. All right, my friend. Thank you so much. This has been fucking great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me, Cary. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll see you later.
All right, bye. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. Full screen. All right. Here we go.